Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Shane. Today we'll be having a look at Polestar SPAC. Polestar upcoming SPAC has been extremely exciting, and it's rumored that Polestar itself as a company will possibly have an evaluation of $20 billion US. And in my opinion, that's quite undervalued. But today we're going to have a look at that. We're going to have a look at why it's such a big deal for Polestar SPAC at the moment, its merger with Guggenheim. So before we continue with this video, allow me to declare this video is not financial advice. This video is simply for entertainment purposes and for educational purposes. Now, the Volvo spun EV automaker has grand intentions before 2025, but they hinge on a massive growth in record time. Polestar enters into SPAC agreement with Guggenheim Inc., eyeing an enterprise valuation of $20 billion US amid ambitious plans to expand in the coming years. Now, Polestar is backed and jointly owned by Geely and Volvo. Interestingly, Geely actually owns majority stake in Volvo, so this actually gives them an even more overwhelmingly large ownership in Polestar. So I hope everyone could follow that small little train of thought. Polestar intends to add 3 new models to its lineup in the next 3 years by adding 1 model per year. Starting with next year's model 2022, there'll be an SUV Polestar variant new car that is being added to the Polestar family brand, aiming for just under 300,000 annual sales by 2025. Now, I've said in previous videos that I do think that 300,000 sales per year, annually that is, by 2025 is quite underwhelming. I don't think this is ambitious enough, considering companies such as Tesla are already delivering 1 million cars manufacturing per year. Now, you might have some opinion about this because simply you'll think that Tesla's been in the EV space a lot longer than Polestar, which they have. They've had much more experience, they got much more factories. They're just a bigger company at this time, and they've been doing it for so much longer. But 2025 is 4 years away. I think 300,000 vehicles is realistic to what Polestar wants to achieve, what they do believe that they can achieve. And to be in all honesty, they probably are aiming to achieve more than this. But in my personal opinion, I do think that they can achieve a lot more in the next 4 years. Demand is not an issue for electric vehicles. There's just too much demand. In fact, that's Tesla's biggest problem, is that they have too much demand for their electric vehicles, but they do not have enough supply. And a lot of electric manufacturers seem to forget this thing really quickly as soon as they start talking about their company. They forget that there's a huge demand in the electric market. All they need to do is to build the bloody cars, and people will buy them simply because the demand isn't going away anytime soon. Tesla understands this better than everyone else. And on the other hand, you've got companies such as BMW, Mercedes, and they're fighting over a small position in the EV market, which is childish, it's stupid. There's too much EV demand, so why fight over something that you don't have to fight over? Why don't you just do what Tesla is doing and build as many factories as possible and focus on manufacturing and stop focusing on publicity, which at the core of some of these companies believe they focus too much on publicity. Instead, they should be more realistic and focus on manufacturing and stop worrying about marketing for now, because you don't need to market electric vehicles because there's too much demand. That's like trying to market bottled waters to people who live in some of the most hottest climates in the world. You don't need to market it because this is something, a basic necessity that they desperately need. People in the world desperately needs electric cars. You do not need to market it to us. You just need to build the bloody things and we're gonna buy them. Because almost every company's out there, every EV company at the moment has a huge amount of pre-orders that they cannot deliver on, not even close. But oddly enough, no gasoline, petrol, or diesel vehicle manufacturers have a large sum of pre-orders that they're having trouble to deliver on. No, I don't think that's ever happened. And that's not something that will happen anytime in the near future or ever, because electric cars are the future. That's what's gonna be the future. These manufacturers, they need to work on the manufacturing side, because the manufacturing side goes deeper than you can ever understand. Now, the reason I say this is because the mining of cobalt and lithium, resources that are desperately needed for electric vehicles and for many electric component or devices, they use lithium, they use cobalt. But exceedingly, electric cars will need these resources the most, because the sheer amount of resources it will take to power the world, and we're going to need to accomplish this in a more ethical way than it's currently being carried out in countries such as Congo. These are some of the cobalt mines around the world in countries such as Congo, and it's not a place you'd ever want to be. It's very rich in resource, but the way these resources are obtained are unethical, to say the least. So let's take a look at the amount of cobalts in different devices. Now, in smartphones, that's roughly around 5 to 10 grams. In a laptop, that's roughly around 1 ounce. In an electric car, that's roughly around 10 to 20 pounds worth of cobalts. Another way you could have a look at this is it's between 2 to 3 gallons of milk. That's the amount of cobalts that are needed per electric car on average. Now, lithium-ion batteries were supposed to be different from the dirty, toxic technology of the past. Lighter and packaging more energy than conventional lead-acid batteries. So these cobalt-rich batteries are seen as green. They are essential plans for one day moving beyond smog gasoline engines. Already these batteries have defined the world's technology devices. Now, smartphones would not fit in your pockets without them. Electric vehicles would be impractical. In many ways, the current Silicon Valley gold rush, from mobile phone devices to driverless cars, is built on the power of lithium batteries. So what we've got here are quotes from some of the reporters that have actually been reporting on these stories based around these mining experiences. Starting with the first quote, "It is true there are children in these mines." Now, just to give you an idea of the cobalt demands for lithium batteries, that is expected to double by 2025. In the early 2000s, the demand was around 2,698. As of 2015, the demand rose to around 32,000. These are per ton, by the way, 32,000 tons. And it's estimated that around 2025, this demand could grow to around 76,000 tons, over 76,000 tons. I think that number is a little bit underwhelming. I think that number could actually easily be around 80,000 to around 90,000 tons of cobalts that are needed by 2025. I do believe that the demand could grow that high. Take into account the EV market is not slowing down. The EV market is in fact speeding up, and it doesn't show any sign of slowing down anytime in the near future. Now let's get back to the subject of Polestar itself. That is where we start. Companies such as Lucid, Fisker, Lordstown, and now Polestar appears to be tapping into the SPAC. Polestar and Volvos are safeguarded in many ways beyond just financial under parent company Geely umbrella of the brand. However, as we've come to find out in the last few years, a steady and in Polestar case, healthy cash flow really is what makes or break an EV startup. And this is one of the best reasons why I think Polestar is one of the best companies that are geared towards being a brilliant EV manufacturing company, because they know how to build cars, for one. A lot of EV companies are actually struggling. A lot of EV startups are actually struggling with this exact problem. It's not easy to build cars at all, especially electric cars. Polestar was once a part of Volvo. Given the fact that Polestar understands this history that they have, this knowledge base that they have, but also they have the financial support of Volvo and their parent company Geely. Given this fact, this also makes sure that in terms of cash flow, they're not going to run out anytime soon because they've got two greatly successful companies that are supporting Polestar. So Polestar themselves are not entirely new mechanism, having first appeared just about 2 decades ago as a way for a small new company to raise a lot of cash. A SPAC is a special acquisition company. So SPACs themselves are not entirely a new mechanism. SPACs have actually appeared just about 2 decades ago as a way for small new companies to raise a lot of cash overnight. But they didn't go mainstream until the second half of 2010s and now account for about a third of all IPO. SPAC effectively raised capital through an initial public offering and then merged with private companies, giving those private companies far more flexibility in making decisions in their early stage of development while benefiting from money raised through sales of shares. SPACs are also a lot of guessworks out of conventional IPO launches and can result in private companies undervaluing itself or suffering from early trading volatility. SPACs can effectively insulate the company itself from a number of these pressures that have traditionally trended to make IPOs risky by offering their enterprises while also performing the public listing on an accelerated time frame that doesn't take 1 or 2 years from start to finish, compressing the process down to around 6 months or less. So of course there are some risky and less appetizing sides of SPACs that explains why they have been so popular. But alternatively to traditional IPOs over the past half a decade, and why the term SPAC seem to be encapsulating when discussing various EV startups, besides the generous benefits to sponsors backing them, including a serious portion of shares, some of the disclosure to the investors that are part and parcel of regular IPOs are seen as having been diluted in a SPAC structure, allowing companies to issue very rosy sell projections that have not materialized later. The company will have the benefit of 800 million raised by Gores Guggenheim, one of the better known SPACs, along with some 250 million raised by its investors. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to see more. And of course, I will see you in my next video.